Juliet and Paul, welcome to Performance Starts Within.
Thank you for having us. We're very excited to be here.
100%. Yeah, I'm excited for today. Thank you for having us in.
And I have to premise in today's episode, we are joined by my son Archie because solo parenting means sometimes we actually have to bring him on the journey. And so he's sitting here with a banana, hence the burp that he just gave us, with his headphones on, quite appropriate for today's podcast. But before we kind of dive in, I actually want to say that I'm really honoured and privileged to have you both in studio, that we get to record this together because we've been on such a journey together. All the way from when we first met in Bali, when you were there for a business retreat. I then went on to do 3 more of your programs, even coached as a marketing coach in one of your business masterminds. And so I'm really privileged that you get to be here and I get to have this with you because I absolutely love everything that you do, hence why we're having this conversation. I feel like it's fitting having this little one in the room as well.
Well, absolutely. If you think about all of the influence that he's going to have in his imprint period, he's going to have an amazing life if he's already doing this at nearly 3 years old. But also the topic of your podcast, I think, is such a perfect thing for us to be able to dive in, especially given the transformation that you've had since we met. I think we all just talked about the fact that it was only February last year, but it literally feels like 3 or 4 years ago. So
it's been huge. Yeah, it's so good to watch your journey. And I love that he's running podcasts already. He's going to be superstar by the time he's got a few runs on the board. But thank you for having us. We're excited to chat today.
And I'm really excited as well. And while we're talking a little bit about what kind of got us into the work, I really wanted you to, for those that haven't heard of you or what you do, tuning in for the first time, tell me about the changes that you're wanting to make in the world. How did you even fall into this as a mission?
Well, I think everything that we do now these days is around helping people live more fulfilling and meaningful lives and really let go of the programming and the patterns that are keeping people trapped and stuck in repeated cycles and feeling like they're not in the driver's seat of their own life. And that naturally was a progression from our own individual transformations, which I think would be best if you start with, given you started it all many, many years ago, Paul. So perhaps if you give your background.
A lot of the work that I do today, I kind of stumbled into by necessity. In my late teens, early 20s, I was personally going through a lot of transformation in terms of transitioning out of school, my first major sort of relationship breakup. My family dynamic was really chaotic at the time. And so there was a lot of stress externally, which then led to a lot of stress internally, and didn't have the coping mechanisms or strategies to deal with that. And so I had a lot of physical symptoms and a lot of mental, emotional symptoms as well, but stumbled into some information, some self-hypnosis, some basic mindset and NLP tools that literally took me from a kid that couldn't leave my bedroom and was afraid of the world. I used to run through shopping centers to working in the biggest gym in South Australia. And, going from a person that didn't really know what I wanted to do to feeling really comfortable and confident helping other people to have physical transformations at the time. But then after a while working with people with their body, pretty quickly I realized that a lot of the blocks that they were sabotaging their results with or not making the lifestyle changes was because of what was happening internally, so their mindset. And I think the fact that your podcast is called what it is really, I worked out that the performance did start from within, and if they didn't make the internal shifts, then the temporary results they had wouldn't stick, and they sometimes would sabotage themselves when they did start moving in a certain direction because all of their unconscious fears or coping mechanisms and safety sort of barriers they created, they didn't know how to shift them and have the body they wanted and have the other areas of their life fall into place too. And so I brought a lot of the skills that helped me into my work with clients, and very quickly my clients loved that more than the on the floor gym stuff, and I started getting more clients for that. And then I had other trainers ask me, oh, what are you doing? I want to learn how to do this too. And so that got me into teaching it. And then it's been a whirlwind journey since then. I've been traveling around teaching that for decades now, and happy to do it with my life partner. And it's so amazing to work together doing it as well. And yeah, it's been a personal journey, but it's been something that really, as I've learned more and shared it, has helped me grow. But I've also seen people's results level up from it as well.
And I think as well, I'm so grateful that we get to work and be in partnership in our life as well as do such meaningful work together, because we met now 11 years ago, but 12 years ago, I was really in a very different place. I was stuck in the corporate grind. I was married and very unhappily married. And I basically had done everything I thought I could to change my life on the outside. I'd changed, everything that I possibly could. I tried to make everything perfect on the outside. And then I had such debilitating anxiety one day that I really started realizing I need to start looking at what's actually going on inside of me. And that started the journey into all things personal development. And the more I really found out about who I was, the more the world that I'd created started to shatter and fall away. And it was 9 months after I'd ended my marriage that I met Paul, and it was in such fateful circumstances. And it was this moment, it sounds really cliche, but the moment we met, there was just this feeling of, oh, there you are. Oh, of course. Okay, now my life can start. And it really feels like this last 11 years now, sometimes still I pinch myself and think, gosh, like what would my life have been like if I hadn't started going within and started asking myself the hard questions and started doing the work that prepared me to be a match for who you were at that point and be on this journey that we're on now, where we get to travel and teach and do really meaningful work. And yeah, very grateful every single day. So it's been such a big journey, and there's been a lot of changes that we've had to make to get to this point. But I think we like to be that walking, living, breathing example of you can really start to change your life. It's never too late. And it really all starts with you and what's going on inside of you, and starting to look deeper at what's going on underneath everything else.
I love that so much. And I love that you were able to bring it together and from different backgrounds and journeys on how you got there as well. And I definitely noticed that sometimes it's hard to see the end, or not even the end, but the next step when you're at that starting point. And that's essentially kind of where we met as well, which was pretty magical in Bali. That was the first time I thought I knew there was a problem that I had to kind of resolve. I was having some issues with some old police things that I've kind of buried over the years. And then having you in Bali, it was almost like that symbol for me to go, okay, it's probably time I start moving things. And I'm pretty sure I cried the first time I spoke to you, didn't I? Yeah.
I still remember you actually coming up to us after our presentation, and there was just this intensity about you of, I'm going to change all of this.
Yeah.
And you talked to us about what you were experiencing. You talked to us about your symptoms. I can still remember you had these beautiful big blue eyes and these big glasses on. And I remember you just saying, I need to shift these things. I know that I'm aware that I've got these unconscious patterns. Let's dive in, right? I don't know if you remember.
100%. Yeah. I'm literally there in that moment and chatting to you about what you're going through and telling you there's a way through it as well. And we'd love to help you. And so I'm so glad that you did, because sometimes when people have tried things before and not got the outcome or the result, they think that's it forever. And one of the things that we realize through what we do is it's not necessarily the first thing people try, but it's usually the last thing they need to do, because they actually going to experience the transformation and letting go of some of the things that maybe have held them back before, and realizing there is ability to change, and you don't have to be stuck in a box of I'm going to have a certain thing forever, or I have to live a certain way because of what happened to me. And I think that is something that we both love about what we do, is just helping people have that transformation. We could see how ready you were for that, because you had been through so much and you were ready to make a big shift. And I love when people like show up like that, because that means that you're going to be a great person to work with, because you're at that point where you've had enough of the old pattern, the old story. You're ready to really like step into the new you, and it was a perfect meeting for that to happen.
I definitely feel that as well. And I know from it feels like such a long time ago, but at the same time it was only yesterday that we were in Bali. And I guess the place that I was to get to that point, and I remember that hug that you gave me afterwards and that kind of release. I'd never experienced that before. I was 9 years out of the police at that point and had been through things like, psychologist therapy, bit of somatic work, but never really done very much NLP, and I didn't really know too much about it. And so after I met you, I was like, right, I'm going to do NLP for me, not to become a coach, not to teach and be a mindset, but purely because I wanted to take on what you taught people onto myself and shift through some of those really sticky beliefs. And I remember the first time I went through it and going, oh my gosh, why was I not doing this 10 years ago? Why do more people not do this in the field of work that we used to do? Because it was so much transformation that happened between then and now. And this trip specifically, because we're recording from Adelaide, we're flown across the country with a 2-year-old. This trip specifically showed the integration and these little small moments on what it was like before, and wow, look at what we're doing now.
Even how you're speaking and composed, you feel just so embodied, and you feel so present, and you feel strong in such a grounded way. That's really nice to witness if I cast my mind back to when we did first meet. And it is interesting. A lot of people study with us or do courses with us, and they'll say things like, "Oh, I've heard of people studying NLP, or I've looked into it before, but it wasn't until now that I could really get at the deepest level how transformational this could be." And I think there is a understanding or a perception of what NLP is in our culture and in our society and in even other trainings. And I think what Paul and I really try to bring to what we deliver is a sense of realness and a sense of how we're applying these things in our lives as well. And it's not, here we're perfect, let us teach you everything. It's, these are the things that we've been embodying and applying in our lives, and there's real tangible ways that you can actually start to make these shifts if you use the skills. It's not just the information of what NLP is, but it's how can we help you transform your life, that I think is what we try to really instill.
I think you going through and experiencing the shifts that you had is the best thing ever. Like, whether or not you're going to become a coach, or whether or not you take it on as a career thing later, just knowing and feeling that embodied transformation where you've actually felt the shift, you've let go of the thing, that's really what it's about. And once people have had that, that's an undeniable experience where, change is possible. I think that just ripples through the rest of your life. And for a lot of the people coming to our sort of courses, maybe it's just the personal transformation they're after, not necessarily the career thing. But if they do want to do both, that is cool. But like you said, just going there and knowing that you were ready for a shift and you had tried other things and stepped into that world was so great to be a part of, because I love, like, it's not that always everyone has to come that way, but a lot of times I'm the person people run into when they're ready to change. And so, like, they've been through this, that, and it hasn't got them there. And then I'm like, I'm not going to be another person on the list that you work with that's going to be, it didn't get you somewhere. And so, like, I could really feel that you were ready for that shift. And I'm so glad that you did take the step, because some people do almost do it and then they don't. And so looking down the road a couple of years later, seeing you where you are, that's just so nice for us to be a part of, and seeing all the cool things that you're doing. Like, we know what's on the other side of those fears or the doubts or the, I don't know if this is going to work for me head game that people play sometimes. But when you take the step, you put yourself in the right place, magic can happen. So I'm so glad that you did that.
And I'm so grateful that we got to do this and talk about it as well.
Yeah.
And so what about yourselves? What are the shifts that you personally had to make to get yourself ready?
How long have you got? I mean, I'm still getting myself ready. Life is a constant evolution. There's always new layers, new levels. There's always new stages that we go through. So I'm not sure if I'm ever going to say that I'm, okay, this is what I did that got me here. I had a lot of people in the first, especially the first few years of my transformation, from quitting corporate, ending my marriage, starting my business, starting running Bali retreats. And in that space of time, I had a lot of people ask me, oh, what did you do? Thinking it was one thing. It's never just one thing. There's a consolidation, but I suppose the one underlying core theme I've always been committed to, really since I started this path, is deep, deep self-inquiry and deep self-reflection, and noticing my triggers, noticing my shadow, noticing what beliefs are playing out in the results that I'm getting. Even, I think relationships are a great container, whether it's a partner or a child, are a great container for self-reflection. And so I'll notice what's coming up for me in my relationship, in my friendships, in my family dynamic. And I journal every day and will often reflect on, okay, how am I showing up in this? And what is this showing me about some barriers and some boundaries that could be blocking? So I would say, aside from all of the deep transformational courses and study and now teaching those things, which to me, teaching the courses was a much deeper level of having to be congruent with the skills rather than learning them as well. Aside from all of that, I think it's that commitment to looking at myself and knowing I'm a perfectly imperfect human on this life, having an experience, but I'm always trying to humbly look at, all right, where am I showing up? Where are my edges? And I think that's something that we bring to each other, and we always have open communication around as well, what we're feeling, what we're thinking in relationship and in business. And that's one of the key things, I think.
100%. I think like Juliet mentioned, the fact that life changes as we go through different stages of life, for me to get into the position of where I was out traveling, doing this stuff, that was me sort of stepping into my confidence, being okay out on stage, going from a kid that couldn't even really talk to people or leave my bedroom to being the guy on stage talking to hundreds of people. That was a big transformation and a lot of internal work that needed to be done for me to feel comfortable doing that. But then as we've built a business, as we've built a life, breaking down different barriers, whether it be financial blocks of like what is possible to earn or what's okay for, you know, the internal battles that people have about that, perceptions of other people is something that as you build a business and you work through, you know, depending on which level you grow your business to, there's going to be a lot of external criticisms and challenges that come up with that as well. And then as we evolve as people, how do we find what we share with others? How do we find how we like working and how we want to work with people that still has the same intention and outcome, but doesn't necessarily look the same? Because what we've done has changed over the years, and we're both going through a bit of a change where we want to deliver some new stuff as well. So that's always cool to see. So always reconsolidating and allowing ourselves to keep evolving as our self-sense and identity shifts through life and through what we do as well. Because every time you have a personal transformation, what you think about yourself changes and therefore what you can do. And so it's just always keeping up with the new map of who we are versus who we thought we were back when we did whatever it was. So I guess it's a constant process, and just having each other to chat to and communicate with and see our blind spots. We're kind of lucky that we kind of live with the amazing coach. Like we both get to, you know, oh, this is happening for me. You know, can you help me unpack it? It's kind of a good thing. You know, some people might think it's not, but we navigate it really well. But having a coach literally in your life all the time is a really useful thing. But having someone outside of you to see where you can't is a massive thing. And we're both okay to call each other up on stuff too, which is huge.
I'm hearing Juliet in my head saying, so why is that a problem?
Yeah.
Going back to NLP teaching days.
Yeah. And I think one other thing I would add as well is I always seek out things that I have resistance to. Especially, I remember in the first few years of doing a lot of different courses, aside from NLP and hypnotherapy, but any courses that I've ever been in, I'll always find maybe the person in the course that I'm most intimidated by or most triggered by, and I'll seek them out and I'll try to learn from them, or I'll try to work with them. And I didn't realize at the time that that was shadow integration in the real world. And I think that that's been a big part of the integration and being able to walk into any situation and feel really comfortable and confident. We just finished running a speaker training with a lot of our students, and one of the biggest things we talked to all of the students about was people think it's about doing a personal development or a public speaking course. It's not about doing a public speaking course. It's about being comfortable in who you are. And the more comfortable you are in who you are, the more you can bring that into all of the situations. And that really stems from, and everything we teach is diving into the unconscious and what are the beliefs, what are the patterns, what are the stories, what are the experiences we've had that cause us to shut down. And that happens. You see a lot of people as they get older, their world gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And everything that we teach and all the courses that we run, it's all about reinstilling people back into that potential of the world is open for you and it's a safe place. And if you can walk into it with that belief system, the results are going to be so different. So
100%, yeah.
And I definitely feel like what you were talking about with, you know, coming back into the world in a way, once you've done that inner work, sometimes can be very raw, right? And one of the lessons that I found is trying to rebuild internal safety with myself when you're in positions of feeling unsafe. Safety with yourself in your decisions, in the way that you show up with around other people, doing things outside your comfort. And that I found is a journey in itself, even just to do NLP sometimes. Yeah. Is that something that you've noticed in a lot of your students or yourselves?
Well, I think anytime we go into a new situation, even if it's a course or a training environment, we're bringing in the hangover of our childhood. A lot of people's school wasn't a supportive environment for them, where they weren't encouraged to give things a go and to make mistakes. And so already people are going in that back foot of feeling unsafe. And this isn't a place where I can just explore who I am. And I think from the get-go, day one of our courses, we say, this is a completely safe environment for you to actually, maybe for the first time in your entire life, discover who you are, rather than people get told, oh, just be yourself. People don't freaking know how to do that because they've never been given the safe environment to do that. So we try to create that.
And for most people, who they think they are is basically a whole heap of coping mechanisms. And what is safe isn't necessarily safe, it's what's familiar. And so like Juliet mentioned, the schooling, but what's familiar, Italian word for family. Usually we don't mirror safety, we mirror the environment that we grew up in, because that's what we unconsciously learned was home or was love or was whatever, even if at times the way it shows up is unsafe, it's familiar. So our body craves that sense of, oh, this is what I'm used to. And it could be adrenaline, it could be cortisol, it could be stress, because that's what you grew up in. So that's the stew that your body has marinated in. So that's what it's used to, right? So for a lot of people, once they've done some transformation work and they've shifted maybe some of those unconscious patterns, maybe some of the emotional addiction, some of the filters that were constantly reinforcing and bringing themselves those challenges because that's what their body was looking for, then they have to go through the stage of relearning who they are and relearning to map, okay, I don't need my partner, my friends, my parents to show up like that anymore because now I've broken that addiction. How do I show up and how do I enforce new boundaries? Where's my new safe place to play? And what does that even look like? Because you need to relearn who you are, but also everyone else does, because now you're not the same pushover or the same people pleaser or whatever your pattern was. You've got a new sense of self-worth and you'll say no in certain times, you say yes for certain things that maybe you weren't doing before. So it's a whole process of relearning. And so in our training, we use a bit of a term called embracing the fog. And it's that comfortable uncomfortableness that we want people to step into. If you imagine just being out in the cold, it's a real foggy night, you can't see anything. And it's like, oh my God, what's there? It's the unknown. And your body mind prepares you for the unknown by creating a bit of adrenaline and cortisol and, oh my God, let's make them more alert to handle what's going to happen next. But as you step into the fog, what you find is the smoke and the mist starts to clear and you can actually see what's there. So for a lot of people, they just need to take those steps and map that new territory, and then it becomes a safe place to play. And so allowing yourself to experience the unknown, knowing that if you're only doing what you've done before, you're only going to get what you've always got. And so sometimes for new and different, you have to do something that you've never done, which seems unknown and seems scary, but embracing the fog, the feeling of growth, then you grow as you expand. And then that becomes a new way of showing yourself, yes, I am growing. I am growing now because I'm doing something that is new and different and I haven't done before. I'm stepping into the fog. And once I've taken that step, I'll know that it's safe. Like the floor will be there when I step. And that's just a process of learning to trust yourself, which is not something that people have necessarily embodied until they start to really take those actions.
And it's in hindsight and the integration. And it's those moments, those new experiences that allow you to see the work that you've done. Prime example, Archie's sitting next to me and he's got a cold, he's coughing, right? Old 2 year ago Tash people pleaser would be like trying to hush him and trying to work out probably what he cancelled. I can't do this. And now it's like, he's a child, he's coughing, it's going to happen, right? It's part of what we do. And I don't think I flinched at some of his coughs because I'm like, he's here, he's part of it.
And he has something to say, obviously. I'd love to hear what he wants to say about this. I'm sure he's got some nuggets of wisdom in there we can get out of him.
He really does surprise me. He listens. He says to me the other day, just on a segue, thank you for taking me to the park, Mummy. Or did you have a good day? I had a good day at the park. And you don't remember saying some of those things and then they say it back to you. And like I said before, he's the mirror. He's my mirror. So he's going through a phase of I can't. He's going through a phase of like pushing back and boundaries and tantrums. And I was like, oh my God, you were me 2 years ago and still evolving and still learning how to navigate some of these challenges because they will always come. It's just a different layer now. So 2 years ago, I'm battling with my inner self and now, I'm battling with a 2-year-old with my inner self, and we're teaching him how to blow out candles at the moment to try and regulate because I still need regulation. We're human, right?
It's all you and your inner child as well, getting it at the same time. And I love that you're going through this phase of him having his individuation and asserting himself, and that's mirroring what you've been going through. That's very cool, very symbolic. Yeah.
Which is back to your point, listening to, when you come back and maybe you've shifted or evolved or worked through some things and your family haven't seen that part of you.
Yes.
Even with him coming back, and I'm probably a bit more softer and less, I don't say no in a way that I probably would have a long time ago. He still gets the no's, but I let things go a lot more. And coming back after my separation, moving closer to family, I haven't lived up there for 16 years. And so they see 16 year ago me, or they see old police Tash. They all see when I first left the police and some of the challenges I was having with some of the trauma I had, they haven't seen the evolved Tash or the evolving. And it's such an interesting experience that often I listen and I hear what they have to say and I go, I have to kind of set some boundaries here that I've never had to do before, because distance was a boundary. Now we're around the corner, and it's such an interesting experience coming back.
I love that. I think, is it Eckhart Tolle says we have to be most present with the people who we share the most past with, because they're going to be projecting the past onto you. And so the more present you can be with your family and notice those things, that's starting to help. That ripple effect is going to then have an impact, and they're going to start thinking about things differently because of those boundaries, and the way that you also are gently articulating those boundaries as well is beautiful in itself, and definitely something I think we all have to learn on that journey of, well, I've had to fight so hard to get to this version of myself. I'm not just going to give it up and go back into those old, smaller boxes that I used to live in. I'm now in this space, and this is what's important, not only for you, but also your next generation. Yeah.
And it takes a conscious effort, I feel. And I feel like that's maybe something that you've experienced with some of your students or even some of your past clients as well, that they get to a point where they've worked through some things, but then they're back around very similar old ways that they almost want to come back to conforming to the old part, because then they have their tribe with them. They belong, they feel safe. It's normal, it feels natural, it's familiar. And I'm almost consciously having to, in my mind, fight it, but the body still wants to kind of give everything up, right?
Yes. And Juliet mentioned the word individuation. There's a process that happens for people normally, naturally, as we develop as a child. We learn to separate from mother and child, and we can be safe by ourselves. But some people psychologically and mentally, emotionally don't know that them and their family are together, but they can live totally independent and safe separately. And so when you feel rejected by a family because you've changed or you're different or you're not doing the thing that we do because that's what we do, then that's a feeling of unsafety at an unconscious level for people. And so we have a little bit of a phrase that we teach people usually at masters is poop. And so it's the perceptions of other people. And this is something that you're gonna get poop in life. Like, people are gonna put their version of you onto you, and you go, well, that's not how you are because you're like this, based on 16 years ago version of you that actually didn't exist then and definitely doesn't exist now, but exists in their mind. And they make you try to fit the model they have of you. And so we can either, like Juliet said, shut down and try to fit that, or know that whatever version or perception people have of you in their mind isn't really you and is never going to be you, because you're way more than that. And so you can use their criticisms, their judgment as fertilizer, so that the poop can actually help you grow. Whether, like, a lot of people have the idea that criticism or judgment is a negative thing, and so we should shut down and avoid it. It's unavoidable, because even if people's perception of you is, oh, you're amazing, you're great, that's still their version of you in their head, and it fits the model they like, so they'll say that's great. If the version of you in their head doesn't fit the model they like, they're going to say it's bad. But it's got nothing to do with you. It's got to do with what's going on in their head. And so the more people can embrace the fact that the version of you in other people's head is not you and has nothing to actually really do with you, it shows you their internal values and beliefs, then you can free yourself of trying to please other people and just do you and have your version of you, the one that you're living now, be something that you feel in alignment with, and know that other people aren't really going to see you. They're going to see their small version based on the few snippets of your life that they've experienced, and it's never going to be fully you. Then you can really free yourself of trying to, have all these little great versions in other people's head and actually just have a great life. Because you could have the versions great in other people's head and have a terrible life because all you did was try to people please, or you can go, you know what, I'm going to be me and other people can deal with that. And so, like, for a lot of people, that's pretty freeing.
And it's also really hard to get to as well. It's difficult. I remember that moment of moving into my house. I'd separated with my husband, 3 months later, had my own place. And the journey to get to that point wasn't very helpful or kind. And I remember sitting there going, I finally have no one else in my life to be good enough for.
Ooh.
Because they'd chosen sides within their own perception. They have their own reality of that, which is theirs. I have mine, and I've disconnected, and now I'm just baseline. And it was such a freeing but also strange feeling, because I'm so used to hitting that hyper arousal all the time and sitting in that adrenaline rush with drama, that I was finally at peace, that it was like, wow, now I can actually, what do I want to do?
I was just going to say, and you'd probably developed such an ability to know how to meet that and to be that for everyone else, that once that fell away, you have this Okie dokie. What is the strategy I now run for how I operate me and my life? And that's such a cool journey to go through.
Yeah, and I think the metaphor that a lot of people can get is like you pulled all the weeds out of your garden and you're looking like, well, there's nothing in the garden now. And so I kind of say you can either fill your life with dreams or drama. And so you just had removed all the drama. And if you don't start planting the dreams in there and fertilizing those, then we're magnets for drama. And so like doing things that you're doing, business, podcasts, and, being a mum, like that's fertilizing your dreams. Like you need to, I think some people, they clear a space, but they don't actively start building and energizing it. So sometimes they'll attract things in it to fill the space. Like nature pours a vacuum. So if you've got an empty space, it's going to be filled with something. So just being really conscious of what you're actually creating and energizing that is really, really important in that stage that you've just sort of mentioned.
And that's exactly why I guess I call this podcast Performance Starts Within as well, because back when I was teaching, it was about 5 or 6 years ago, I had a mentor that taught me about, the first kind of terminology he had was your physiology impacts the way you behave, which then impacts your results. And a lot of it came down to feelings as well. And so who you surround yourself with and what you consume and not consume as well actually directly impacts the way you feel about yourself, other people, what you're doing, which then naturally impacts the actions that you'll take or inactions to get the results you want. So I love that we get to see this kind of in motion in your programs, because we were working on the internal state to get to a point where we could stabilize. And I actually had to find what my baseline actually was, because I felt like baseline was depression, because I'd never actually lived there safely or peacefully, to be able to then go, okay, so when I'm not my best self, I'm not going to put out, we call it the shit principle. We put shit in, we get shit out. We're not going to be our best selves, which means we're not going to get the actions and behaviors and results that we actually want to get.
Totally. And I mean, sometimes it is about changing environment, as you've mentioned as well. You literally moved away. And I think for some people, it is about looking at, is your environment supporting you with all the internal changes you've made? We always say as well, your external world is going to be a mirror of your internal world. And once you do those internal shifts, things start to shift, friendships fall away, or opportunities come up, or you start realizing and noticing and getting yourself in different situations. And I always think we often find before or after one of our big trainings, especially you're going through your eight-week shadow dynamics intensive at the moment. We've been doing so much just spring cleaning and reorganizing of our office, and we always smile and think, yep, the external world's shifting, because the internal world, everything is changing. And so always looking at those moments when you have that inspiration to do something, it's a nice external reflection of what's changing on the inside as well.
And I think with what you mentioned, like noticing what your new baseline is, for sometimes when you've had a pretty dramatic life and a lot of things happen, it's a roller coaster. And you get used to the roller coaster, and then you get off the roller coaster and like, this is boring, because it's not that high, low, up and down sort of adrenaline rush that most people experience, because a lot of people get addicted, because your body gets those highs from the stressful situation. Even though we don't think of it that way, it's chemically stimulating our body. And so our body builds an adaptation to it and usually needs more of it to feel the same rush. And so when you've actually got your body to a point where it's not finding or focusing on or filtering for the same kind of challenges and problems, your body goes, hey, where's that little thing? Give me that little thing, right? And so getting yourself to that baseline can be like almost a detox for people. Like really, if you think of people that have had really major addictions being in rehab, sometimes it seems like their body's like, what the hell's going on, right? And so we've had lots of people that have been almost detoxing their emotional addiction to their previous self and previous life and previous surroundings, and then finding, okay, this is the new level, and finding that ability to enjoy life without having to have the big roller coaster. And, what is exciting and fun and fulfilling doesn't have to be that, oh my God, my stomach's up here and my eyes are popping out of my head experience that it used to be. And you can still feel that, the wave isn't as big, but sometimes being like this, you get a lot further without sort of the big high and the big low and the big crash. Like consistently like that over time is better for your body and usually better for your life as well.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that within myself as well, where I have to either like you said, plant some new things whilst I'm in baseline, because otherwise drama can get in very easily.
Yes.
And if I am surrounded by people that haven't done any work or done a little bit, but maybe not to the level that I'm at, I can't unsee it now
Yes.
as well. And I notice when they're potentially even trying to plant some drama as well, just to get that reaction, because the inner child is still there and they're still working on that kind of wire.
It's really interesting as well. I mean, even with a simple framework like the victim triangle, the victim, savior, persecutor, a lot of people really don't like being seen as the bad guy. And so if you've been in situations or conversations or in relationships with people that have a crisis and they're used to you being in that savior role where you'll come in and rescue them or help them or give them guidance or spend hours on the phone talking them through it or something, the moment you stop doing that and you say, you've got this, I believe in you, or, well, this is a lesson that's being brought here for a reason, what is there to learn? Immediately there can be that tendency to get pushed into that persecutor role of, oh, well, I thought you cared about me. Where, you know, what's going on? What's changed? You're different. All of those things. And that can be really challenging if you're looking at things from a broader perspective and also not sacrificing your peace for other people, especially when you've not only invested financially, but mentally, emotionally with your life. I mean, spending the amount of time doing what we do, even having solid meditation and self-care practices, you're not just going to then spend hours going in and rescuing someone, because you're basically undoing all of that, you know, that space that you've created for yourself. And so I think the more you've cultivated that peace in your own life, the easier it is to recognize, well, it's actually robbing that person of their growth experience if I go in and save them and rescue them, and being okay with being labeled the bad person or the person that doesn't care. That's always mine. That's mine. If I still have a tendency to want people to know that I care. And so sometimes that's still something that I need to work on is, yes, but not so much that I'm not caring about me and my life and my foundation. So always a work in progress, but definitely family is always an interesting one, and knows how to get into the buttons as well. So,
I personally have a savior hangover. So my thing is like just watching getting pulled into that position, definitely with family and friends, and being the one that always has to help. I've got a lot better at that. But I think one thing that you mentioned and is important for people listening is that if you have created that space or you are wanting to make change, being really conscious of who you filter around it, because they do drop things in your garden. They're going to happen, just whatever they're holding ends up getting dropped. So having mentors, having friends, having coaches that can support you in planting the things that you need and want to get to where you're going, because the strategies you had, the coping mechanisms that got you to where you are won't get you to where you want to go. They're going to give you more of the same. So if you do want to run a successful business, or you do want to have a body transformation or relationship or something different you haven't had before, you need to find someone that knows how to grow those flowers and help you to fertilize and grow them. So that's always like really important, especially when you're nurturing those early stages, to really have support to do that as well.
And it's going back to what you were saying before about how you now seek out people that almost trigger you or challenge you in particular ways, because I think I got to a point where I was doing so much work on myself that I started to avoid the triggers. I was trying to find my safety bubble where I had coaches that would validate, coaches that would nurture, which is what I needed in that season of life of early separation with my husband. And when I packed up and moved with my 2-year-old and creating that baseline foundations. And then I got to a point where I took on a new coach, and it's really funny that we're having this conversation because I feel like the shadow's coming out.
Yeah.
Where she triggers me so much that I'm not enjoying it whatsoever. And I almost want to quit being in her program. And I had a conversation with, actually having a conversation with her tomorrow, but I had a conversation with my current mindset coach. She's been fabulous, has done everything up to this point to be exactly what I needed to nurture me. But now it's keeping me stuck because I'm stuck in validation.
Nice.
And
I love your awareness.
Oh, it was like a kick in the guts. And I love that you spoke about it, because I was like, oh, yes, I should actually stay exactly where I am in this new coach.
This is interesting though, because like we've already been talking about, is it something here to show you a pattern of what's familiar, and it's someone treating you in a way where actually you want to assert a boundary and determine, actually, no, this is a new level of how I want to be treated. What am I? And this is sort of starting to dive into the shadow work that we do teach in our master training, and we've got courses around. It's, well, what am I really judging in this person? So if you think of that particular coach, what is the trait or the quality that you're really judging, and what would be a healthy expression of that trait in my life? That if I embodied just 10 or 20% of what I'm so bothered by what they're doing, it would actually be a really transformational quality for me. And then you kind of can see it from that perspective and go, oh, thank you. And then they start to almost show up differently, or you realize, I've got my learning from you, thank you. And maybe the lesson is to cancel a contract and go through that and be the bad guy. And maybe that's your shadow because you don't let yourself do that. You know, there's so many cool layers to it. But I do think in the personal development industry, it's really important not to gaslight yourself into unhealthy relationships under the guise of, oh, well, there's a lesson here for me, so I've got to stay here. You also at some points need to say, I've got my learnings, and the learning is actually for me to say no and to set a boundary. So, and only you know that for you.
Well, a lot of reflection for later today, because what my thought process was, the fear of success came out.
Ooh.
And that's something that I've been working on in my own integration. Did some breath work around fear of success, and she's authentically herself, does whatever she likes in a way that serves her, and potentially it's taking away the ceiling from that people pleasing for good.
Nice.
Interesting.
It's really cool to
Yeah,
look at.
and like just to add to that, like she looks like a shadow monster because she has her normal amount of that plus your suppressed amount of that. And so she comes with a double dose, and it hits you because it's your stuff. It knows exactly where to go. So it pushes your button. Other people seeing that person might be like, I love how confident they are, or I love how whatever. But because your flavor of you're not letting yourself do that, or you're not expressing it the way you want to, you give her that and she's got twice as much as, and so it seems like a big monster.
Yeah.
And so this is where we talk about like shadow monsters. It's really your light not shining where it is for you. So it reflects a shadow back onto someone else, and it's a boomerang. It's always going to come back to you. And if you don't own it, it ends up owning you, because you'll see that in everyone else and you won't let yourself be that. And when you've got it, you're going to express it in your values, and it's going to show up maybe different than how it looks for them, but it's going to be more authentic for you. And yeah, it's just bringing your power back. And a lot of time people do it with negative traits as well as positive. We got golden shadow and we got normal flavor, traditional flavor shadow, which most people think of. But all of that is energy. And even if it does seem negative in another person, when you bring it back, it's going to show up different for you because you're going to use it in your unique expression. And so it's very, very powerful. And it's cool that you're having those light bulbs today, because it really is a whole nother layer. You start looking at other people as reflecting back all sorts of parts of you, and then you get to take them on and express them in the way that's useful for you.
I heard a really good quote the other day. I cannot remember who said it, but they said, I don't like this person. I need to get to know them better.
Yeah.
So much work in there. I had a question. And I lost it. So going down some of the monsters you're thinking of, maybe we won't call them monsters, but some of the common things that come up with some of your students as first timers, what is it that you're noticing, if we were to categorize them into sections essentially, that come and join you for your programs?
Well, really easy to put people into two sort of categories. You've got people that are there for their own personal transformation. They know that they've got some things they want to let go of or shift from the past, whether it's past emotional events, some beliefs that they've got about themselves, some unuseful habit patterns that they want to shift in themselves. They know they want to let that go, but they also are coming in with some goals. They want to create a new body transformation or a new relationship or a new level in their business success. So they want to let go of the past. They want to feel their confidence in the moment and really embody that. But also they want to go out and start creating what they want in the future. So most people, even if they do want to become a coach, they're in that category as well, because they're going to get a personal transformation through the work that we do. And we want everyone to walk away not just with the information of what these things are and how they work, but also the embodied transformation of, oh my God, I used to cry about this, but now I can feel totally different and get how that was important in my life. And I wouldn't want to change it because I needed that. And so once people have had that, it's an undeniable experience. And then for other people, they come in knowing they want to work with people. Some people that don't want to work with people, just want to work with themselves, end up wanting to work with people. And it's like, this is great. But a lot of people come in, they're already coaches, they're already therapists, they already work with people in their team, they're already parents, and they know that how they communicate with other people really dramatically affects other people, but how they show up as a person also ripples through their family. It ripples through their team at work. It ripples through the people they work with and coach and all those things as well. So they know they want to get more out of themselves, but also master communication, be able to help other people get through their own blocks and let go of what's holding them back, but also motivate and inspire them to get to their outcomes that they want. And so there's people that come in and want a skill set and the mindset and the confidence and certainty that they can get other people past whatever they walk in the door with and get them to where they want to go. And for a lot of people, even if they don't start in that category, once they've experienced what's possible personally, they're like, oh my God, if this works, it's good for me. Like, I'd love to share this with others. So there's sort of two categories, but they do cross-pollinate, but they're the two main things that I've noticed over the years.
I think once we get deeper into the course as well, the first few days, a lot of people are conscious of a few patterns and problems based on the results they're getting in their life, but they don't actually fully get, well, what are the deeper underlying beliefs that are causing it. And I would say by the time we get to the meatier part of the training, once everyone's gotten to know each other and we've peeled back some of those, we talk about, if you think about a tree, the first few days of the course, we're cutting back some branches and we're understanding, well, what is the actual root? What is the trunk that's underneath all of this that's creating what's been planted in your garden? And by the time we get further into the training, I would say a lot of the common themes that we notice are people who have feelings of not being good enough, not being worthy, and that's showing up in relationship, in workplaces, in health, etc. And then deeper beliefs around, being able to make certain amounts of money. There's a lot of sort of similar patterns. I would say that the key underlying ones are fear of failure, fear of success, not being good enough. They would be some of the more common ones. And how they show up, what the flavor is slightly nuanced and different for each person because we all have different linguistic representations for our belief systems that we have in place. And I think what's possible in the course for people to start to recognize in terms of those patterns is how is that actually showing up? And a lot of times they haven't really investigated it thoroughly or had the space to really inquire deeply about it. So for example, if someone says, oh, I have a lack mentality, what specifically does that mean? How is that showing up? And we'll get, a whole heap of information around, well, how that's actually being created at the unconscious level. What is the actual underlying belief system around it? And then we'll find, well, what is the one belief that is creating all of that? And often, as Paul mentioned, it stems from values as well. And so that goes deeper into that. But, all humans are fascinating. And I think that's the key of NLP is no two humans are exactly the same. And even if I have two clients in front of me that have a belief of not being good enough, it's going to show up very differently in their life. And it might be a slight different variation of it. But I would say that's probably one of the more common ones. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And then obviously the clusters are of different emotions that people walk in with as well. People have a lot of shame, fear, guilt,
yes,
sadness that they're carrying, a lot of loss for people. And people don't know how to let it go from the past, and they sometimes bring it into the present and project it out into the future. And so for people to know they can still have the memories without the emotion and have all the learnings and all the things that they really want to take forward with them so they can handle themselves now and in the future better, that's something that a lot of people are blown away with in the trainings as well, because they think they're going to have that emotional baggage forever, and they don't realize they can unpack it and take what they need moving forward without all the, like the wisdom without the wound is an expression that people say, like you can really get the learnings and lessons from what has happened to you and how that can change you moving forward without having to bring the baggage along with you.
And I think that's something, the awareness that you develop in the courses that we do put together are so powerful because people will be aware of their habits because they'll see themselves doing things and a lot of the time feel like their habits are controlling them. And I think in the training, people get the first taste of, oh, I'm actually in the driver's seat and I can start to change the way that I'm handling these situations. And in the past, I would have responded like this, but now I'm responding like that. And a lot of the habits are driven by the feelings we're having. And so someone might say like, oh, I just feel bad and that's why I reach for a drink at the end of the day. Or, oh, I feel exhausted. I know, or I want my mum, or exactly, or I have a feeling of I want something, I'm going to reach for the alcohol because that makes me feel better. That's the relief and that quietens down all of those emotions. And so what starts to happen in the trainings is we help people unpack and release those. And then they get to the end of the day and they're like, oh, I don't have that feeling of needing something outside of myself. This is new. What's this? What is something wrong? Because I'm used to having that habit, but now I don't have that need. I don't have that emotion kickstarting that behavior. And you've got more choices. And so I think that's what's really exciting is once people people don't have the awareness a lot of the time of it's guilt, it's shame, it's fear. They just don't feel good. And so we live in a society that is designed around, oh, you don't feel good? Here, buy some things. Oh, you don't feel good? Here, drink some alcohol. You don't feel good?
Well,
have something else
the word you
happening.
said, don't feel good.
Yeah.
It's because people don't know how to feel. They don't feel good because they've suppressed their emotions with alcohol or food. And so they don't know how to unconditionally feel an emotion because it usually comes with the whole lifetime's worth of accumulated things. So it's not the emotion of the present moment. It's the whole lifetime worth of emotion that you haven't dealt with, plus the thing that just happened at work today. And that's a lot to do with, so let's just have a packet of Tim Tams or whatever, right? And so what tends to happen with people once they've cleared a lot of the stuff from the past and they're not, another sort of weird thing that I like to describe is when we're under stress, we regress. So if someone's triggered in the moment by an emotion, they're not handling it as an adult usually. They're going back and handling it at the psychological, mental, emotional age they were when they had initial triggering. So for most people, that's their childhood. And so they're going to have a more childish response to not know how to handle a situation because they're regressing in their nervous system back to a child and, oh my God, I don't know how to deal with this. Pacify, right? With a food, with a substance, with a way of changing your emotional state. But when you've cleared it, you're going to come in with a more mature, conscious, logical, I'm an adult. Okay, that thing happened today. Whew, let it go. It's not, there's not overwhelming emotion. So people become able to feel better once they know that they don't have to carry all the baggage, but also in the moment can deal with and handle what's happening because now you're seeing it as an adult with a different point of view, not just a unhealed, wounded child kind of thing.
And I think one thing I just wanted to add on that is that's why I think your hypnotherapy training is so powerful because the emotions people are feeling in the present, we can actually go through the body, through the somatic process and do what's called a regression back to the time that the person first experienced that emotion. And that's always really fascinating. I've had clients that they'll say something like, they'll be talking to me and they'll go like, oh, sorry, I'm just getting all choked up when I talk about this. And I will do a hypnotic regression off that feeling of them being choked up in that moment. And they'll go back to a time whether, depending on their belief system, it might have been a past life where they were literally being choked. And they'll actually somatically, physically release it from their body through the process. And then in the present moment, they stop having that recurring thing. And that was really fascinating for me, especially someone who had major anxiety in my 20s. The amount of, not only NLP, I think works really well because it's the linguistic, the language focused development, way into the unconscious, whereas the hypnotherapy tools really are like the unconscious, the body way of bringing those
I think
things
some
into
people really
awareness.
get how when you're having an emotional response, it's an unconscious response in hypno because every emotion you're in is an altered state, which is a trance. And so we transform by trance ending. We end the trance of, say, stress or fear, because if you're feeling fear, you're not in the present moment. Your mind's either gone into the future or the past. So you've gone into an altered state of trance. And what we're doing with hypno is we're helping people end that trance. We actually do more unhypnotizing and more taking people out of trance because if you're in a trance, you use a negative trance, you're going to be not here, not now, and your body mind's reacting like you're in that event that was triggering.
I think that's such an important point. When you're feeling an emotion, you're under hypnosis.
Yeah.
That's what people don't get. And I think in your hypnotherapy training, the coaches really understand, oh shit, when my client's talking to me and they're crying, they're not present. They're in the past.
Yeah.
And if I can go back into that moment in the past, in what's being activated right now and help them release it, then they no longer have to keep carrying that into their future. So I think the yin yang of the skill set is really powerful and when you were asking at the very beginning, what changed everything for me, I would say that the hypnotherapy training was profound for me as someone who never lived in my body a day in my life, really. From when I was 15 to 27, I think the hypnotherapy training was the first time I actually felt, oh, I'm actually physically present in my body. I'm not in my head telling myself what I'm feeling. I'm in my body feeling what I'm feeling for the first time. And that is incredible, especially if we think of the way our society is generated, most people aren't in their body. They're not embodied. They're not present because their body hasn't become a safe place to live and it doesn't feel good. And so they escape it to their mind. And so I just think that's a really important piece, that when you think about what's going on for us as humans, I think so much of what we do now is on devices, it's on computers, it's heady, it's logical. We are in this masculine world, whereas being embodied and being able to have both the mind and the body connection, I think that's where the real healing can start to occur for people as well.
And I think you'd be very proud to know that I started hypno, and 10 years ago it would have been so resistant to, I would call it woo-woo, right? But I found that the mindset got to a certain point, and like the neurolinguistics, and the body now needs the work because there's a disconnect between what I think but also what I feel. And in that moment, exactly what you described, I felt these sensations and this heaviness that I had to explore in that hypnosis state, because I couldn't think myself out of it.
Yes.
Which is so interesting, because then when we think about, you know, some of the consequences, or even like with the cost of not doing this work, I can only imagine what it would be like if I was here, had done none of it, and what that would look like. And I would be heartbroken for myself for not have done that. And so for many other people that are potentially looking at doing some of this work, tell me a little about, we've looked at the benefits of it and things that will work. What are some of the things that's going to cost them in the end if they just stay exactly where they are?
I can rewind back to the kid I was in my bedroom, afraid of the world, couldn't leave the house. I had to run through shopping centers. I'd be sweating. I'd have auditory hallucinations. I think I'd hear people talking about me, super paranoid. If I didn't find this kind of work and do this kind of work, I would be dead, or I'd be in a mental institution. There's no way around it. Like, I just would not be doing what I'm doing today. So my life would be over. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So that's that. But in terms of financially, like, it's immeasurable how much learning this stuff has helped me. Like, I'm a big advocate for the more you learn, the more you earn in any area of life. Like, if you want to get better at something, the more you learn about it, the more you can charge, the better results you get. But literally just the shift in mindset. Money doesn't exist in the external world. It exists in your mind. People can see opportunities in the external world that other people can't, not because it's not there, because they don't have the internal mechanisms to recognize it. And so the more you shift internally, the more you know your worth, the more you can see value, and the more you can give value. Like, I've made millions of dollars doing this and have, you know, opened up so much other ways of investing, and my money mindset is always getting better. So like, I want to invest, I want to do other things. So financially, it's infinite. And I know if I want to run another thing, do another thing, there's no limit on what's possible. In terms of relationship, I was either I would attract a crazy woman or they'd become crazy, because like, I was the main common denominator. And so I realized that, you know, as I shifted my beliefs in that, like, we have the best relationship that I know out of anyone. And I don't want to sound like a jerk, but like, I don't know anyone that spends as much time with their partner as we do. Like, we spend a ridiculous amount of time together. Like, we work together, live together, and most people would kill each other if they lived and spend that much time together. But I want to do nothing more than spend time with Juliet. Like, it's like my favorite thing to do. Like, I would scrap everything just to go hang out with Juliet, right?
We're so excited that we're on this podcast together, because we just get to hang out as well.
And so like, that's really cool. And I wouldn't have got to that place without doing this kind of work. So I never would be able to experience a love and connection like this without this. I know physically, like, I've been able to maintain a pretty healthy body compared to like most people my age. I can outperform most people that are half my age, like in the gym, if I go play sport. But
seriously,
also,
he'll go and play basketball against like 20-year-olds and he'll say, I'm fitter than all of them.
Yeah, you know, when I've prioritized it. But, you know, but I've also seen people in chronic pain. I've seen people that haven't been able to lose weight that turn their body around, turn their life around. Like, living with pain sucks, right? I've had times where in my past, because of emotional stuff, had physical symptoms and pain. But when having dealt with it, like, it's so freeing. So like, I know in that area of life, it's magic. So like, almost any area of life, I can't see someone not benefiting from this. Like, there is so much on the other side of doing this kind of work, and the glass ceiling that you think you have of something, you know that it's illusion. You know it can be shifted. So no matter what area of life it is, you can always push it that little bit further if you want to. But then also, for us, it's also learning how healthy It can be not just pushing it higher every time, like finding that level of, hey, you know what? This level is where we want to play right now. It's not about hitting it further or running any faster. It's about really just enjoying where we have things right now as well.
I think as well, every time we teach a course, we have at least a couple of students say, why the hell didn't I do this 5 years ago? I would have saved myself so much. Oh my gosh, if I had all of these belief systems that I now have, what would my life have been like 5 years ago? So I think that's hard because we do get inquiries from people and they're interested, but they're maybe not quite ready. And then a couple of years later, they'll say, okay, I'm finally ready. My life got shit enough that now I'm ready to change.
Yeah.
That's sometimes the problem, is humans can be more motivated to move away from pain than towards the good. And I just think you've got this life, you've got this one life. Why not equip yourself with as much information and tools and transformation that can help you enjoy and have a smoother ride? And I think that's what I notice is it just helps everything run smoother when you are in alignment, when you're in conscious and unconscious alignment with what you say and what you do. You stop fighting against yourself. And I see so many people that are in patterns and cycles that they're saying that they want to be healthy and fit, and then they're sitting on the couch eating a whole packet of Tim Tams, or they're saying they want a good relationship, but they're friend-zoning everyone they meet that would literally be perfect because of their belief systems. There's so many things that you can just see. I know, and I just want to say it's crap. No,
that's not what I'm saying, by the way.
But yeah, there's so many things that you can see, and I just think, yeah, if anyone listening to this, I mean, I know a lot of people listening to this, you may already be, a mindset coach, might already be in this industry. I think just, keep peeling back the layers and make the commitment to showing up and really going there and doing the work. We do get a lot of people come and study with us that they've got lots of pieces of paper, and often, and I'm going to make a generalization here, often the more certificates and pieces of paper I've noticed, the less inner work people have done, because they've got that external validation, so they haven't had to kind of peel back the things internally. So I would say we've had psychologists, we've had doctors, we've had teachers, people with all sorts of different qualifications study with us, and they say, thank you, this is the first time where I've actually felt safe enough to go there and not felt like I had to be perfect because I have this label or these qualifications. And for us, we just think anyone that comes into a training, learning environment with us, it's like a fire sale. Everything must go. Here's your opportunity to just get everything out that's been holding you back in your life up till now. And it's such a cool journey.
Yeah, you're all people, not pieces of paper, and everyone's got things that they can like level up on or let go of.
Yeah.
Closing question for you both. If all of your learnings, all of your courses, all of your books, because you've written so many, were burnt, destroyed, what would be one thing that you could say to somebody from everything? One lesson that you would leave with them?
I would say think about your life in 10 years' time and the compound effect of making small changes every day for the next 10 years. That'll be 3,600 changes that you'll have made if it compounds over the next 10 years. Start now, because the 10 years is going to go anyway. So you don't want to look back in 10 years and think, oh, I wish I'd started being braver back then. Do it now, because now is the only time that exists.
That was nice. That was like sent me into a spin because that's such a big question. I think I'd want people to know that it's on them. Like, there are people that can help you, but it's still up to you to be there and make the decisions. And the decisions you make today will shape your destiny. And so sometimes they might seem hard, or they might be against what you've done before or the people around you, but you don't know until you do it. And sometimes the thing that you really need and want for yourself is on the other side of a tough decision. And so that's definitely worth doing. But then also I'd want to say that your life reflects you. And so if there's anything in your life that isn't the way you want it, it actually is, because you wouldn't have unconsciously brought it to yourself if you didn't want it. And now wanted doesn't mean that you were like, oh, I really would love it to be this way. It's unconsciously meeting those open tabs, those unconscious desires and programs and the map that you've got in your mind that you learnt growing up. And so as you change that map, it'll change the world around you. And so if you want things to be different, don't try to comb the mirror, like work internally, because like your podcast is called Performance Starts From Within. And so if you want the outside world to be different, do something on the inside and then watch the magic happen.
And Archie's spoken. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and Archie for joining us for his little
Thanks,
podcast
Archie.
as well.
Hey, buddy.
I'm going to pop a link down below because I do know you've got some courses coming up. You host them every single year. I'm trying my hardest to jump into your mastermind. So you're not your mastermind, your master practitioner training next year. And I can't wait for us to jump into another potty together.
Thank you so
Cool.
much. It was awesome to see you.
Thank you for having us. It's been amazing.
Thanks, Archie. You're a rock star.
And I think we'll definitely over it now.
High five.